Yeah. So, hello all. Welcome to the session on economics. And today we'll be having the topic on theory of production. So, we'll try to understand what is a production function, what is production dealing with, and the factors involved in producing a particular product, and so on. How this is helpful in decision making. So, we're going to look into all of these concepts today. Uh, so, let's deep dive into the concepts. So, what is production? The term production refers to the process of transforming inputs or the resources such as labor, capital, raw materials into goods or services that can be used or consumed by individuals. Production is a vital aspect of economic activity as it generates output and creates value that can be exchanged in the market. Production makes use of various methods and procedures to turn raw materials into an end product. This can be distributed to the consumer to satisfy their needs or wants in terms of a product. Basically, it means the inputs we have raw materials move from one place to another. So this the first and foremost thing, initial thing we need to learn is that the objectives behind this production are to make a product successful or to sell a product. First, we need to make it, fabricate it before distributing to consumers or the buyers. So the objectives play a vital role. So the first and foremost objective of production is that to produce the right product. So when it comes to the objectives of production, that it is like what type of a product to produce. Let us say that a lot of choices are available in the market at the moment. So which type of product the consumer wants or needs. So what would be the right quantities of the product that need to be produced. That is the second objective. And the third one would be the product to produce the product at the right place, at the right price, basically. Uh, so just because the demand for a product for a particular product is so high, the producer cannot keep on producing the huge quantities of product because the demand is temporary. There are many factors that are needed to be considered. So this production also means that it changes its shape, right? Its form, it changes its form, it changes its place from one particular because one particular place to it is taken from one particular place to another. The product that is manufactured, it is polished and then attain proper shape, added value. So a lot of processes are involved in this. So which one is important? So the use of efficient methods, the fourth objective, and then moving on to this quality, the most important segment here, and then adding value, the brand value might be anything out of there. So typically, a production process involves several stages, such as the first and foremost thing would be the design, the planning, and then moving on to sourcing of inputs. Where inputs indicates that raw materials, how where we're getting those raw materials, uh, where do we get basically where do we get those raw materials, at what price? So these are factors are going to coming into the picture, and then manufacturing or service delivery, and then the distributing to the consumers, the respective consumers or the buyers. Then moving ahead, uh, we're going to discuss the factors affecting production. So the major factors are being listed here, which are affecting the production segment. So the first and foremost thing is the inputs. Inputs here, as I mentioned earlier, inputs are something like the raw materials, the land, the labor, the capital, the organization, and the technology. So these are some of the factors affecting some of the major factors, the parameters or the attributes called affecting the production. So coming deep diving into the concept of production function. What is basically a production function? The production function nothing but can be defined is nothing but it can be defined as a technological relationship between the physical inputs and the physical output of the organization. So according to Stigler, The production function is a name given to the relationship between the rates of input of product to services and the rate of output. According to Samuelson, production function is a technological relationship which explains the quantity of production that can be produced by a certain group of inputs. It is related with the given state of technological change. So basically, the relationship between the physical input and physical output of a firm is generally referred to as production function. In economics, production function is a mathematical relationship that describes the output. Output is nothing but the quantity of goods or services produced that can be produced from a given set of inputs or factors of production such as labor, capital, and the raw materials as I already mentioned at the beginning of the session, at the beginning of the slide. So the production function typically takes the following form. Is Q that is equal to f of k L m. So Q is the quantity of output produced, k L m etc. are the inputs or the factors of production such as the capital, labor and materials as already mentioned earlier. F is a mathematical function that describes the relationship between inputs and outputs. So moving further, the uses of production. Basically, these are the use cases where the production function is basically being deployed. So the initial use case would be it helps in it, basically production function is being utilized is being deployed in making short-term decisions such as optimum level of output, helps in making long-term decisions such as deciding production level, helps in calculating the least cost combination of various factor inputs at a given level of output, gives logical reasons for making decisions. For instance, as the price of input falls, one can shift to other inputs. So basically, these are the major use cases of the production function in a real-time scenario. And then the types of production function. Maybe the important concept is that short run and the long run. It's basically production function is basically classified into the two major. There are two broader classifications, namely short run and long run production function, respectively. So the inputs are constant in the short run production function. The inputs are varied in the long run production function, though only labor varies in the short run production function. So it's basically on the principle and the law of works on the law of variable proportions. But on the other side, whereas the long run production function is based on the law of returns of scale. So there are different types of production functions such as linear, quadratic, and Cobb-Douglas production functions which differ in their functional forms and assumptions about the relationship between inputs and outputs. The study of production functions and related concepts such as productivity, efficiency, and the production cost in is a centric topic basically in microeconomics and managerial economics are to be considered. So the law of diminishing in the previous slide as we discussed the law of both the laws. So the law of diminishing results or law of also named as the law of also termed as the law of variable proportions. Again, by going with the statement by according to this Stigler. So as equal increments, one foot are added, the inputs of other productive services being held constant beyond a certain point, the resulting increments of the product will decrease, that is, the marginal product will diminish. But on the other hand, according to the Benham, as a proportion of one factor in a combination of factors is increased after a point, first the marginal and then the average product of the factor will diminish. So that's it for today for the concept. This is Ashok. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm signing off.